Joining us right now is Kendra Tierney. She is with CatholicAllYear.com. Good morning to you, Kendra.
Good morning.
Thanks for being on with us today. It's good to have you back on the program. It's been a while since we've had you on, and in the meantime, you have gone through so much, you and your family, losing your husband to cancer. Let's start there. Maybe you can walk us through that sort of quickly. What was that experience like for you?
Yeah. So I get it was about 16 years ago. He was first diagnosed with a melanoma tumor on his back. He went through some treatments, and it appeared to be in remission. But then about 4 years ago, we determined that the cancer was back, or more likely had never really been gone, and it metastasized to his lungs, and eventually he had brain tumors as well. And then in July of this year, he passed away. But he passed away in our home, surrounded by our children and our family and friends. He was able to make a good confession with a priest who was a very good friend of ours. It was the last conversation really that he had. Our pastor was there the next day to give him the last rites and anoint him and ask him if he wanted to receive the Eucharist, and he said yes, and that was the last food that he ate and the last word that he said. And so of course it's difficult, but there's so much consolation in the sacraments and in being surrounded by our friends, by our family, by our faith, while going through it. And I think that we've been able to take, to find a lot of peace in that in the months after.
Yeah. I would say from the outside looking in, you shared so much of your vulnerability, if I can't even get that out this morning, during that process, which, I mean, that was incredible too. I think you demonstrated to so many how to gracefully deal with these very difficult situations. How are your kids faring through all of this?
They honestly really do seem to be handling it well. And I think that's because we are blessed with a really good community around us. And, my husband's friends check in on them, and, pick them up to take them to Dad's club. And, so it definitely feels like, part of Jim's legacy for our family was his friendships, and that, his friends have stepped up and have been there for our family, as we have needed it. So that's been really helpful. And then just, it's an unexpected blessing of a big family. I think that it's counterintuitive that people would think that losing, me losing my husband is, would be the textbook case of why you don't want to have 10 children, right? You wouldn't want to end up a widow with so many children, but it's been having a big family, having my older kids, to be able to help with the younger kids, to be able to support each other and to have that group of people that it's not awkward for us to bring him up in conversation, and we have all these shared memories. And so it's been having a big family has been such a blessing in this time.
Yeah, I can imagine. Now, you gave a talk at the conference that you run every year, and And I watched this talk a couple of times, actually, why you are not a very sad widow. I think, many of us, when we are faced with trauma, with difficulty, big life-changing events like losing a spouse, we can become isolated in our emotional and spiritual state. We can become vulnerable. We could just be stuck in this moment so much. But you seem to be able to resist that temptation. Can you explain that to us?
So I really found that as I was sitting down this summer, trying to sort of take it easy, looking for shows I could watch. And I just kept coming across this character in every TV show that I tried to watch. And I call her the very sad widow, or, VSW. And she can't function. She basically abandons her children because she's just fallen into such despair over losing her husband. And so, it's intimidating to think, like, is this who I'm supposed to be now? Is this my only option? And I think that I've thought a lot about it. And I think what it is if you don't have that, I won't speak for other people, but because I have this eternal perspective, I think that it's different. I don't have to prove, I don't have to focus on that sort of temporal relationship with my husband, that love that we shared on earth is the only thing I have. And then when I lose it, I have to fall into despair. That I think that having that perspective, that eternal perspective, I think has allowed me to focus on the blessings of what we did share and of the family that we still have. And, again, just the consolation of the sacraments. And I think that being able to, I keep telling people, go to confession. That's the thing that you can do for your spouse, because you don't know what's going to happen. And the people that you love will really appreciate it if they know that you have received the sacraments. If they know that you recently made a good confession, that's going to give them so much consolation if anything happens to you.
This idea of consolation, how in spite of how sad, how in spite of the unknown, and I think you even say this in your talk, you really talk about how you decided, like, years before your husband even passed, you were going to wait to worry. Like, we'll see, we'll cross that bridge when it comes, the whole worrying part. It doesn't seem you've crossed the bridge.
Yeah, I definitely did. I had that moment it was actually on the day that my husband was first diagnosed with cancer. And a teacher at my son's preschool said to me, "Wow, you must be really worried." And I just thought in that moment, must I really? Like, maybe today it seems like we're okay. And so I'll just wait. I'll wait to worry. And I really just every day throughout all of this have been able to look and see that despite the worry for the future, despite the unknown, in that day, I've been able to say, you know what, I can wait. I can wait on that. I wasn't sure that I could manage the Padre Pio, pray, hope, and don't worry. Like, I wasn't sure I could commit to that, but I could commit to waiting. I could worry. I could decide, all right, I'm going to give myself permission to worry later. But really, if I look around today, we're okay. And I found that throughout 16 years of my husband's illness and treatments and surgeries, hospitalizations, grand mal seizures, ambulance rides, all of it, at the end of each day, we really were okay. And I was able to find a way to trust in God's plan for our family, and just doing it in these just little, like, one day, today I can wait. And it worked, and it worked even though the thing I was waiting to worry about happened. And despite losing my husband, still on the day that we lost him, we were surrounded by friends and family. We had the consolation of the sacraments. That day we were okay. And things have been challenging in new and different ways since then, but we still have been okay. And I still trust that God has a plan for our family, and that somehow we will continue to be okay.
Can I share something with you that I realized about myself the hard way? I had a friend years ago named Doug Pearson, who died of cancer. He had 9 kids. And Doug would come visit before he got really bad, and we would talk, and I would say, Doug, oh man, I just really want to take this away from you. And he'd say, Joe, I want to live. I want to help raise my kids. I don't want to leave, but God's will be done. And he kept saying that. And then I visited Doug on his deathbed, just a couple of days before he died. And it was in the hospital, and I was a wreck. Just like I'm a wreck right now, I was like a real wreck. And I'm just sitting there, and he's in incredible pain. He was emaciated. He was staring at this giant crucifix on the wall. And I'm like, Doug, I just really want to take this from you. I really want to, and he's like, how dare you want to take away the cross Christ has given to me to bear? I was so shocked by that. What I realized in that moment of Doug's courage and his grace dealing with this incredible thing was I was just acting very selfish in all of this. Doug was making me feel uncomfortable, and I wanted to take away his cancer so that I could just feel better about myself, if I'm being honest. And I have you experienced that in friends and family who have come to you and have tried to console you? I mean, if we accept God's holy will, then we should accept God's holy will no matter what it is, right?
Right. There's the rub, right? Is when we've committed to our life of faith, every prayer that we make has to be, if it is your will. And so people all over the world were praying for my husband's healing. My children and I were praying that he would be miraculously healed, and he was praying for that too. But that wasn't God's will. And therefore, if we believe in God's goodness, then we know that somehow this was God's will and it is for our good. And we don't have to understand that. But we do have to trust that is the case. And, my husband fought so hard. He fought so hard. He was, he wanted to do every treatment. He never gave up on that. He fought really hard to stay with us. But on the other hand, he did have a great faith, and he believed that if it was God's will that he not be healed, then somehow we would be all right without him. And so, for me, we can't presume. We mustn't presume, but it's the goal of spouses to get the other one to heaven. And I genuinely believe that I did that. So I can't begrudge him that victory, even though I'm left here behind. But I believe that, that he can intercede for our family. I believe that his suffering was redemptive. I believe I have all of those consolations.
Well, what about the practical element of this? Trusting in God is, I think, the theme of this conversation. Praise be to Jesus. But surely you must wonder what's going to happen tomorrow. You have 10 children, a house to keep, a bill still to pay. Your primary income was, I imagine, through your husband. So do you, and I mean, you must wake up and worry about what will come tomorrow.
Again, each day we've been okay. I have Catholic All Year started as just a mommy blog, and over the years, it has grown into a business, and it's been beautiful to see the people who came into my life to help it grow and change. And it has become a source of income for our family now. And so, that feels providential, that it's something that I'm still able to be a stay-at-home mom. I'm still able to homeschool my kids. And I have this business that I'm, passionate about, and that I feel helps people and yet also helps provide an income for our family. So it has felt that God has given us a path through this, and maybe it all goes away tomorrow, but right now it feels like it's growing, and that this is a way that it works out for us.
Yeah, amen to that. CatholicAllYear.com, by the way, is the website, CatholicAllYear.com. So Advent season is upon us. This is, in the normal world, this is something you'd be focused on, is liturgical living and liturgical season. So has that aspect changed for you, given the fact that you have lost your husband this year, and for you and your family? Has Advent at all been affected, or any of the liturgical cycles?
That's the thing. I think that's another thing I love about liturgical living in the home, is that it gives me that framework. So I'm not trying to build everything from scratch every year. So we have our family traditions, and that, of course, some years we're able to commit to them really fully and do everything perfectly. And some years it's a little bit more scaled back, but we've been doing it for so long that it has been really easy to, it's the first Sunday of Advent. So what do? We go out and cut some branches in the backyard, and we make ourselves an Advent wreath to put on our table. And we do that even though, even though I lost my husband this year, we have been able to keep up our traditions. And, of course, going into the season of Advent, which has been so important to our family, and our the Christmas novena, the 9 days before Christmas, has really always been our most cherished liturgical living in the home practice. And we sit down on the couch together as a family, and and my husband would lead us in prayer, and I think it is certainly going to feel different to not have him there, but that doesn't mean I'm dreading it. I know it will be different, but it's always been our favorite liturgical living practice to sit there with the fire going and to say these beautiful prayers, and that are, pulled from the Old Testament. And I love it so much. And, so I know that we're still going to have that. We're still going to have that. And that, I know that we'll be, united with him while we're doing it. But, and going into Christmas morning, it's going to be different, but we'll still have each other. And I don't know, again, I just trust that somehow it's going to be all right.
I think it's a very special season, because Advent is both an expectation of the coming of the Christ child, but it's also an expectation and a sort of a wake-up call for the end of times, for the final judgment, for preparing ourselves to die well and to face judgment well. And I think that might have a significant meaning for you and for your family this year as well.
Well, I think so. I think that we just went through, the month of November, where we focus on the Holy Souls, and I love that, that memento mori imagery. Yeah. And, I think that it's good to keep that at the forefront of your mind.
Amen. We are out of time, unfortunately. Kendra Tierney, CatholicAllYear.com, CatholicAllYear.com. God bless you. God love you. We continue to pray for the repose of your husband and for your family.
Thank you so much.
All right, that's going to do it. Join us in the second hour, 9 a.m. Central, 10 Eastern, all across the GRN. Go to grnonline.com/CDT.